You're listening to Being Built. I'm here with Armando Monzon. You're the Director of Software Development at ONEIL?
I am, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. When I started working with you guys way back when, I hired a bunch of developers for you back in the day. And here's how I thought of ONEIL back then. I was a 63 Whiskey wheeled vehicle repairman in the Army, and I ran the inspection shed. As mechanics came to the inspection shed and told me, Sergeant Davis, hey, I've repaired this vehicle, I would have to look at these manuals to see what repair they did and what were the steps, and kind of eye-opened hardback, paper manuals to do that work in the Army, looking at Humvees and LMTVs, all that stuff, right? I understand ONEIL to be the organization that was digitizing all of that content and making it searchable and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, right? We are doing all those things.
Okay.
And it's even evolving since then. Yeah, absolutely. From the paper world where you went to, and also electronic technical manuals, but now we're doing things in terms of just kind of immersive technology to kind of get that same information, but just in a new medium there. Obviously, an interactive medium where it's not only digital, but it's providing on-demand, precise information that's even more beneficial to maintainers and also to other systems, other business systems that kind of glean insights in terms of predictive maintenance or AI models and other items there to make kind of really the whole motor pool more efficient and effective and cost-effective there as well.
So it's funny that I'm kind of like I'm your user.
You are, absolutely.
I was.
You was. You could still be, yeah, you were, but absolutely. But it's just the evolution of just the paper manuals and how it went from electronic technical manuals now with the kind of the Internet of Things and business systems, as well as how we're able to kind of connect all these things. Okay. Obviously, especially when you're in the motor pool there or in the Army, there's new business systems that want to glean insights as you're performing maintenance as to, well, why was that maintenance? Why did it occur?
Interesting.
And how often does it need to occur? Do we need to change it? What parts or items need to be in inventory? Especially if it's more mission critical platforms that they want to make sure that those things are well stocked.
We always ran out of flywheels. We changed them out on Humvees so often, and I don't know if it's because we were driving through the dirt or what it was. We were always waiting for a flywheel to show.
And absolutely, and that's a great use case as well in terms of that's other intelligence that people want to know. Are there certain wearable parts that need to be replaced or in inventory just for better operational use?
I can see how there would have been a ton of improvements just in the digitization, right? Just like search for keyword. Oh, that would have changed my life.
Yeah, how did it go from open up that manual, going to the index at the back, and trying to find it, versus now your index is just type it in and boom, it's right there.
Especially since I was a horrible mechanic. I was just I had rank, so I was the guy who had to inspect, but all of my soldiers were better mechanics than me. So I was really dependent on those manuals to check their work. Right? The manuals told me how they were supposed to have done that work. And so I would kind of go through it like a checklist, right?
Yeah. And now you kind of have digital checklists to kind of go through, and that kind of helps validate every step of the way to make sure that, hey, did the people do what they needed to do? Yeah. And there's logs of that information to help get effectively digital signature sign off that those things are occurring.
You're the director of software development, so you're still building something.
I'm in charge of really technical execution, both for our commercial DoD products and aerospace products and R&D.
So you're going to do commercial stuff too, non-government stuff as well?
Correct, absolutely. It's the whole gamut. Both of them get the benefits of each other's kind of, we're a product support company at our core. My job is how to apply technology to make product support really more useful for all aspects across all business lines, whether it is commercial, aerospace, or DoD. Obviously, the digital transformation of manuals, as you said, really applies to any type of organization. And how do you get useful information into the hands of people when they need it most? And ultimately, that's one of the core tenets of my job. So people can actually do their repairs more safely, more efficiently, more accurately. And doing it in modern mobile apps and or tablets, but still desktop applications, and also connecting business systems so things have the most accurate digital representation of information that people need.
So I'm still a mechanic of different sorts these days. I don't get under a car very much anymore, but I did install the fans on a tall ceiling in the house, right? And so when I did that, I think I found a manual online for that fan system. It's a somewhat sophisticated system with a remote and a bunch of control modules and different functions that are built into it. And so I did have to go through a manual that I found on my phone online somewhere. And so that's kind of one way that I'll still find a troubleshooting guide or a solution or a part or something like that. Is now I'm accustomed to just going into my phone, going online, I find that, one place that it's hard for me to imagine an Army mechanic or the motor pool manager or whatever is how much I use YouTube or some online video, or even like Lowe's has tutorial videos for how to build this or that.
That's the way modern maintainers are kind of expecting that information. Our job is also supplementing that traditional product support information with videos. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, look, my son and I just put new blades on our lawnmower and stuff like that, and, help clean out the carburetor in it. And it was a YouTube video that really kind of helped supplement that. We're adding really cost-effective ways, but also ways that are compliant and legal for people to kind of add videos into and supplement their product support information, but also digital interactive, maybe like animations to show how things need to be installed, repaired, or replaced as well. It's movies, but also interactive animations that are kind of the way that a lot of modern technicians are expecting to digest that information.
So how would you interact with an animation?
Like in animation, it just might tell you, especially if it's a little bit complex procedure, it kind of would step by step kind of explode or tell you what parts to remove, chronological order that they need to be removed in. But it also kind of animates, well, these are the screws that you need to remove. These are the washers that you need to remove. Well, you may need to flip things over in this orientation to enable easier access to get to these rivets or a pulley system or a wire harness or what have you that might be a little bit more difficult to understand. But by having that being interactive and giving you perspective in the way that you need to look at it, just makes things easier for the maintainer how to execute a particular procedure.
I did all of my wrenching in the wrong generation, man.
Now
I should be doing it now.
Now it's a lot
20
easier.
years ago.
Yeah, but not only the wrench, it will tell you what's the specific wrench you need and what's the specific torque that you need to set it to. So it's not just the how, but also the what. What tooling do you need? So it's having all that information that you need so you can do your job more effectively.
Now I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous of the modern guys who have cooler tools and information more accessible to you. It's good and bad, I guess. We get spoiled on it, but then I'm dependent on wrenches, right? Like you become dependent on tools that are readily available.
Absolutely.
So why the heck would you not become dependent on video and graphics and animations and digital manuals?
Right? Especially with rotation of, maintainers. And, obviously you probably had that where people were rotating in and out every 3, 6, 9 months. So it just makes it so more people are capable of doing that job more readily, more quickly.
So tell me a little bit about your team.
I have an incredible team. I'm very privileged just to have just an awesome, just incredibly talented, competent team. Hopefully that's what you want, is competence. And it's a great blend of just dynamic personalities, smart people that want to get things done. The best thing that I can say is like, look, they care. Excuse my French, but they give a shit. You know? So, and that's hard to find a lot of times. But I think it's a cultural thing. You know, I think people take pride in what they do.
Well, you've been at ONeIL for a long time.
Yeah, right? For around 23 years. No.
That doesn't happen unless you care about the work you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You have genuine interest.
It's care and, it's the people. I think it's kind of you care about the person next to you. You want to do a good job, not just for yourself, but those that are next to you and working with you. And I think that's an important aspect of our culture is, top down or organizationally, people just really care about doing things the right way. I
was just philosophizing on LinkedIn today about work culture and how sometimes people use that term loosely and kind of lazily, like, oh, we have a good culture or we have a great culture, and they fail to define it. But I mean, you did a really good job of defining some important qualifiers for the culture that you guys have developed there.
Sure, it's easier to hire really smart people. It's easier to find some really fun people, but it's hard to find a combination of both, but also having a want and willingness to get things done and collaborate with others effectively. And people that really can step away and think not just of themselves, but the greater good of the team. I think those are difficult things to find, but I think during, and you've helped us out, even during our interview process, it's finding the right personality fit as well. I don't think you can underestimate that.
Yeah, character does matter. Like being on the same page in terms of the things that you care about in the work that you do. Like you do have to value similar things. You don't have to be the exact same kind of people. I've always thought that there was a little bit of a conflict between a true commitment to diversity and a very cultured environment.
Yeah, and I don't want the same people by all means. And I don't want people to just say yes to me either. That's where I get the best benefit, is when people challenge thoughts and ideas just for us to make a better product and better solution for our customers. That's something that I think some people don't embrace, but when you have it, it's very important.
I had a guest in here, Mike Martin, the founder of Digital to DNA, had a really good comment about that. And he said, essentially, effective critique or criticism starts with knowing that you care. Like if you were to say, hey, Aaron, your executive search service is lacking in this, and this way. That would be so much different if, like, we've had a drink together.
Sure.
You've met my family, and I know you care about my success. So if I know you care about my success, and you're saying, hey, from one professional to another, you would be way better served to do this, and this. Then it's a gift to me.
It is.
Do you pop me in the chin? It's a gift to me.
It is a
right?
gift. Yeah.
But if it's like, you suck in an email, so you don't care, you're not interested, whatever, then it's just a wound. Then it just hurts,
Absolutely.
right? So I think you make a good point that there's a trust that you build.
And there's a trust, and that has to be, it's earned. You really appreciate it, and I really appreciate my team when they do those things, and they kind of execute that character, as you mentioned.
So how do you guys work?
Team's around 40 people now, so they range from user experience experts, systems analysts, software quality assurance, obviously, full stack developers, front end developers, back end developers. We have people that also specialize in like Unity development as well.
Okay.
3D immersive modelers, folks that are really great at art, things that I would have no way,
your
no
CAD
skill.
people and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So skill sets that I couldn't draw for the life of me, or just these people are just so incredibly talented with these skills, being able to animate things, take things from scratch, just make them come to life and really useful. It's something that I just really admire, just because my lack of ability in that particular space.
That's why I love all you tech people. Because I've done the hello world. That's about as far as I've gotten coding. Well, I've done a little bit more, but not much more. Yeah. And so every time I'm talking to a technical architect, a software developer, people who do technical stuff, I'm a fanboy of all of you.
Sure.
Because you all do stuff that I don't understand. So I get that energy. It is fun to be surrounded by smart people who do stuff that are beyond your own skill set. What were you doing before you got into leadership?
My first title at ONEIL, straight out of college at Wright State, I was a publications manager, publication specialist. What that meant is I would ingest these CSV files, turn them into, back in the day, SGML.
One markup to another.
A little markup to these CSV files, and then I would work with a style sheet specialist that would apply a style sheet and render that SGML into HTML. Okay. That was my very first job at ONEIL.
So obviously from there to leading a team of dozens of people with all these different specialties, at some point in there was a moment when you, for the first time, were leading people who did things you didn't understand or did things you didn't know how to do yourself. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
That moment probably came years. I always try to at least understand everything, and I would at least meddle to some varying degree to have an understanding to say, hey, is this the right approach? But it came probably, it was more on the style sheet. There's this style sheet development with XSLT to make things render in a real professional way on printer manuals. That's a world that I never delved into personally. It's just, I always knew that I just had to produce XML or SGML in this way. And then these incredible style sheet specialists would take those items and create the beautiful, professional manuals that we would develop even to this day. The other one is I think I mentioned before, our graphics artists. Yeah.
Seems like magic a little bit.
It is magic, where I give them vague requirements. Yeah. And they kind of see I have something pictured. I can crudely draw it, but they engender my ideas, and they're able to manifest it into real life in just a real polished way. That I wish I could do, but I'm so thankful I have them.
How do you see the difference between, leading folks who are doing stuff you're an expert in versus leading folks doing stuff that you don't have any expertise in?
We have an area of expertise, and I also came from data and more data architecture background and database administration and database background.
Okay.
So I was really more back-end heavy and middle tier heavy, where I had a really profound understanding of those things, how to make them performant and how to make them accurate and data validation items there. I had a really solid understanding, and I can provide really poignant advice to people as we go through those items. However, in other areas where I don't have the expertise, it kind of comes up with just conversations and ultimately kind of asking why are you doing that way. You kind of have to get educated, and you kind of hear based upon their response if they've given it the critical thought that it needs. And in some situations you can ask, well, are there other alternatives that you considered that may need to be considered? But ultimately it's kind of continually asking why to some respects to get your own understanding of what they're doing, because ultimately you kind of need to have an understanding to some superficial level to see if they're going down the right track, but also just asking questions as to what type of support they're going to need, because that's my job, is how can I support you in terms of resources, tools, information that you need to execute effectively.
In the recruiting world, we spend all day, every day talking to people who do stuff we don't have any expertise in, right? And so, yeah, I think you just articulated that well. How you go about discerning somebody's skill set has a lot to do with just genuine curiosity. So I've always thought, speaking of my own hiring, good recruiters to me are the ones who are just genuinely curious. Like they really love learning new stuff. That gives you so much energy to kind of explore and understand how somebody works and why. But I guess it applies to good leadership as well. What's next for ONEIL? Where are you going in the next couple of years?
We're evolving in terms of just a big emphasis in a couple areas: interactive and on-demand information for training or product support information. I think people want to upskill their workforce at the time that they need to be upskilled, and that's on demand. So it's providing almost these little short nuggets of product support information in a variety of different ways.
Okay,
Whether it is videos or whether it is animated step-by-step instructions, or whether it is a hot-spotted diagram that tells you what specific part you need, or whether it's an alert that tells you, hey, it's time to perform this maintenance task on your platform. Here's the steps and the skills that you need to do. Or here's this training course that you need to take before you perform that maintenance so you can do it more effectively. But providing and getting all that information to people when they need it most.
You referenced earlier integrating AI into some of your products.
Absolutely.
How are you guys using AI?
We're looking at AI to kind of automatically categorize different documents and different information. Obviously, you dealt with probably operator manuals versus a service manual versus a spec sheet versus a checklist or items there. But imagine if there's just a dearth of organizations that have lots of these kind of siloed pieces of information, and I call it like a junk drawer, where it's a junk drawer of this information. But imagine if you're able to kind of dump your junk drawer and put into this funnel that kind of helps organize it for you and automatically index for you so you can find the information that you need in a nice organized way. We're looking at ways that we can take AI to kind of auto-classify information and to make it really organized in a way that people can find it and index it to make it searchable so they can find it more effectively.
Being able to find and use it at the right time is just what it's all about. Right?
Yeah. And also we've done some research as well in terms of R&D, in terms of using AI to help different products and platforms have parts, right? And imagine if you can just take picture of a part, automatically recognizes the part, and that's the part that you need to order or put into that the motor pool needs. It takes it and it can analyze what steps. This is the part that you're looking at. What are potential symptoms or wear and tear items that you need to look at if you need to perform maintenance on it.
I need to introduce you to my friend Paul Powers from FISNA, who's building 3D modeling tools. Actually, there's a couple of folks we've had on the show here that would be interested in the work you're doing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get you guys connected.
All right.
I find a lot of overlap, despite the guests on the show being in very different industries. Everybody who's innovating something new, it seems like we're all grabbing the same new tools. And so you end up kind of building similar things in similar ways. And it's fun sometimes to see people in completely disparate kind of interests be able to use the same tool set to accomplish some things. So
That's what technology does. It kind of helps you stitch things together. Those are things that we're trying to do. We're trying to digitally stitch certain things together to make them useful to people.
Your vision for what ONeIL is going to get to in the next couple of years, or how you're progressing, evolving? Because I can see how your customer and then their user would really value that quality of experience when it comes to the information about product and systems. For you guys to do that effectively and to create a really kind of robust, mature improvements, evolution to your offerings, what are you most concerned with? Like, what's going to be the most challenging part of that journey?
Part of it's moving fast enough to keep up with the pace of everything that's going on, and making sure that we have focus on the right things, because there are a lot of opportunities there. And if you have a shotgun approach, sometimes to hit all of them, but it's really making sure that you have the appropriate focus on the right ones, being honest with yourself as to what's the right one to kind of put the emphasis on.
Have you turned down some opportunities or opted not to pursue certain avenues?
We have in certain items that, they just might not be quite the right fit, and I think that's one thing I've seen the growth of ONeIL, where sometimes we'd have been like, well, we'll figure it out, and there is still something to that we can figure out. But if it's just really doesn't meet our ideal customer profile, I think we're doing a very good job of just saying it's just not the right fit. That way we can have the appropriate focus on the right customers, because we want to ultimately build good value to everyone.
It reminds me of the difference between a teenage bachelor and a 30-year-old bachelor, right?
Yeah.
The teenage bachelor says yes to whatever comes along.
Exactly.
And the 30-year-old's like, no, I've got grown-up stuff to do. You better fit my lifestyle.
Exactly.
These are my goals.
And that's absolutely true. I think we've grown up quite a bit, to understand what is a good and right fit.
Yeah, the matches you want to make become a little bit more intentional.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
I've worked with a couple of small businesses that have been through that growing pain, and yes, opportunistic, and then at some point you have to learn to say, maybe next time, or if this, that, or the other.
And sometimes it's hard to do. But
as you're kind of picking and choosing the appropriate fit and trying to focus on the things that are going to be most effective to kind of mature you, and what new skills or learning resources or talent is your team focus on or going to need over the next couple of years? How will your team and your colleagues need to evolve over the next couple of years?
Sure. I think it's probably a challenge that's kind of pervasive out there, but one, we want to provide an exceptional user experience, and as we delve more into more product-led and more product-led organization versus being just service-led.
Right. Okay. That's a big mind shift for a lot of folks.
It's a mind shift, but it's kind of become necessary. That's not saying that we'll still have our service-oriented, service line there. That's really important. That's part of our culture. It's there. But there are some customers, and now in this generation, they don't want to talk to anyone. Mm-hmm. They just want to, hey, let me try the product out, make sure it's going to meet the needs that I got. But we got to make sure to demonstrate value within hours, not days or months, or a sales cycle that might be 6-18 months. We're talking about a sales cycle that's more around
those many minutes,
hours, minutes. That this is going to work for me now. So that's a shift. That's a big shift. And talking about challenges, that's a challenge, but making sure that we get the user experience right.
That's a big one for every SaaS company and every new product out there is figuring out how to really have a compelling impact on the customer's perception immediately. Right?
Correct.
As they become customers, delivering value fast.
Yeah, being able to demonstrate that you're going to provide value fast. Is this going to fix my problem? Is it going to fix it now? Or how long? Ultimately, you need to realize that value proposition to the potential customer as soon as possible.
Sorry to be opportunistic, but have you guys used ChatGPT for anything yet? That's what everybody's talking about.
No, just besides
bedtime stories.
No, actually, I'll tell you where we did use it. Is we have a set of interview questions that we ask, kind of can set, and then I had the guys. We did find out that someone posted some questions that we like to ask, for potential interviewers, and when we saw what they posted, it's like, where do they get? That's a pretty elegant solution. It's like, I wonder if they put that in ChatGPT. Sure enough, we copied and pasted what they put in there, and ChatGPT put out that exact same solution set. But we were shocked by how well ChatGPT was able to answer some of the questions that we asked. It's impressive. Have we used it for any line of business items? No, but we are thinking
that's a business process, though. So
it is a business. Yeah, it's a business process, but ways that we have been giving critical thought in terms of AI. How can something like ChatGPT maybe help supplement some of our tools that we're providing? You know, obviously, hey, well, maybe you can say, hey, I need to write a maintenance procedure to discharge capacitance. Well, at least maybe it automatically spits out, well, here's at least the framework or the template that you need to do. Yeah. But ultimately, you got to have our subject matter experts put in at least some of the details and refinements that are going to be in there. But imagine if they kind of take care of at least some of the framework and the plumbing for you. I think there is some value there. And I think there's some benefit if you can validate that it's going to give you the right thing.
When you use it to create content that's super critical and there's a farm or a factory that's down, right? Because of a piece of equipment needing maintenance, and then your automated LLM integration provides it some dumb response.
It can't be a dumb response, but you know, but
that's a lot of liability, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So validation is everything.
And by no means am I recommending it in that space, but I'm recommending when that content's being developed, maybe at least it gives you some of the framework and pieces where really that's what we do. We're experts on this, and we put in the expertise in there and validate it. But then that information gets in the farmer's hands, so he is able to get his farming equipment running as quickly as possible.
It's all about that first draft, right? That's how the language models feel really useful to me immediately. It's right in that first draft, but I don't think I would publish anything out of the gate without a filter.
Sure.
So that's an interesting use case. That makes a lot of sense.
But I get it. You know, sometimes it is the hardest part. Sometimes getting started, right?
That's right. We can skip all of that.
So if it kind of helps you get started, and you can refine from there, maybe there's some value there.
How's ONEIL doing? What's the state of the business?
We've just landed some really major contracts.
Did you?
Yeah. So one that we're proud of is with the Army, doing some interactive Unity gaming development it's really for in partnership with a global manufacturer that does work both on the commercial side and DoD.
Okay.
But it's going to enable maintainers both in the Army to execute more effectively some really important maintenance, critical and safety conscious maintenance that we're really proud to be partnered with them.
Yeah, congrats on the award. That's cool.
Yeah, we just finished off the user acceptance testing that we're executing with the Air Force on a major platform there. We're excited to be working with just a great team here at Wright Pat.
Can you tell us what that work's about?
It's maintaining a mission critical platform is what I can leave it there.
Okay.
You know, but obviously having that platform operational at the ready when it needs to be ready is very important. Us being able to get people the information they need to make sure that platform is operational and high performing when called upon is something that we're very proud of.
Glad to see that you guys have some business with Wright Pat. They're a big part of our economy.
Absolutely,
here locally,
absolutely. It's great to be partnered with Wright Pat, you know, and they're really doing some really innovative things in terms of digital transformation there, and we're really happy to be part of it.
I don't know if this is too private or whatever. Feel free to wave me off, but what percentage of your business is in support of the DoD defense world versus commercial, non-government stuff?
Just taking a crack at it right now, we are probably 65, 35.
Okay.
You know, DoD to commercial.
I'm sure that varies throughout time.
It varies depending upon how things go. And obviously, ideal world, everything would be a little bit more even, but it kind of depends on just
different years. It'll be different, right?
Exactly.
Understood. And so on the commercial side, what kind of equipment are you helping your customers support?
It's expensive, long life cycle equipment.
Okay.
So you mentioned like it could be tractors, heavy industrial equipment as well. Things that have a high initial cost, that long lifespan, you know, but we also do things where it can be mixers and blenders and other things like that.
So anything from
smaller appliances to really expensive commercial grade equipment.
Yeah, that makes sense because even the smaller stuff, I mentioned my ceiling fans, right? Like the user, the end consumer wants access to kind of maintenance or support, or in my case, it was like an installation manual, I think. You know, we need access even for small little things, particularly when they're sold at volume.
Sure.
Right? So like that support investment scales really well for even small stuff.
No, even for small stuff, but also very large equipment as well, you know. And obviously, I think in the commercial world, everyone's facing the challenge that everything's being commoditized, you know. So the price is really, everyone's being squeezed. But, but where's the differentiator that these brands can make? It's in supportability of their products.
And I guess that's a kind of a thing that you mature into as well, that you start to have a preference for brands, not because of their advertising, but because of the support, the user experience. As you
it's the user experience
products, right? Like I have preference for certain types of computers and digital equipment and appliances and washers and dryers. And
I think sometimes the older you get,
it's the nature of being in your 40s.
The nature of being in your 40s, like, I'm tired of the real shiny thing that's flashy. I just need it to work, or get it to work when I need it to work, So, right. Those are the brands that we're called upon. I think those are brands that we're really that are really a good fit for us. Those that kind of see that, Those, a lot of times there are more mature brands that know that that they care about not just their first sale, but their next sale, and they realize that, and they realize having really good service and product support information is what keeps people coming back to them.
I assume you have to be kind of engaged with the actual physical product.
We do,
right?
And that's one thing I don't know since
it's been a long time since I've been in your shop.
ONeIL, we have 2 really large shops now.
Yeah.
When we first moved, they didn't exist, but now we have 2, 3-story type shops where you can get really large equipment where we can tear it apart, put it back together, just so we get the precise and accurate product support information there in terms of instructions and maintenance tasks and maintenance procedures there.
What's the biggest thing that your customers ever loaned you?
I think there's a huge crane that we were like, are we going to be able to get this thing in there? So I think like we said, ship it, we'll figure it out. It's like,
just sits outside.
But I think that's definitely one of the biggest things I've seen.
I think you did have that shop the last time I was there, because I remember seeing some big equipment there. That's kind of what put me in mind of it. Where my head was going is that because you're working on physical product, I assume most of your team is there locally at the office, right?
We do, yeah. So a large proportion, even despite that we're kind of hybrid now for some of the workforce, but large, I'd say 60% of the workforce is still on site.
Yeah, it seems like it would be really, really useful as you're kind of picking through. I mean, if your customer is giving you multi-million-dollar equipment to tear apart, so you can borrow it so you can write support stuff or whatever, I'm assuming you want somebody there to actually handle it and engage with it.
Yeah, no, we're there. We do have a team that's just really their job function doesn't allow them to be remote.
What happened to you guys during the kind of the COVID era? Did anything change in your organization?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think like everyone, things. My team now has a hybrid schedule. They typically come in every Tuesday and Thursday. Every once in a while, they'll come in another day if necessary. But that was an adjustment versus seeing everyone every single day. But we've seen a blend of productivity upticks when people are able to work from home, if they're able to focus in on certain items and not so many meetings. But also I do think there's a challenge sometimes where you lose a little bit of your culture or some just the banter that kind of keeps the team together as well, so I think there's some cultural things that we're still adjusting to.
There's no arguing that you build trust when you break bread, or so to speak.
Absolutely. And also there's something different than seeing someone face to face and asking them questions. You kind of see the whites of their eyes of how they're responding to certain things. And
if you're just emailing them, how do you know it's not just ChatGPT on the other end?
You don't exactly. It could be ChatGPT, and there's just different context and body language that you lose on, whether it's email or even if it is a Teams call or a Zoom call. I
really hope she doesn't see this, but my sister was just talking to me about her daughter's boyfriend and how she's like trying to encourage them to go on more dates. This, my sister more or less says, like, you have this whole relationship that's just texting. You think you know this person, but you don't spend any time together. You should actually spend time together. Isn't that unusual to hear from a mom?
That is unusual, yeah.
But it's true. I mean, a purely digital interaction is a relationship, and it can be rich and deep, but it's not the same.
It's not the same, and my daughter would agree with you because she has her boyfriend over at her house all the time.
Yeah,
which is fine. But that's the way I told my wife, but that's the way.
That's a real relationship.
That's a real relationship. That's the way we were back in high school. But there is something different there, and I'm not saying that you can't have a good relationship and a good professional relationship remotely. It's just different.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you before we wrap it up for the sake of time, and by the way, thanks for coming over to my house and my office and studio to record this
thanks
conversation.
for having me, yeah.
It creates a different level of trust, right?
Absolutely,
It's a great thing.
absolutely.
So I'm glad you came over. The last question I'll ask you, after 20-some years at ONeIL, I guess now, you're probably thinking you'll never write a resume, right? I mean, can you spend the rest of your career at ONeIL? Is that what you're hopeful for?
In some ways, yeah, I am hopeful for that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of unfinished business to do. You know, quite honestly, there's some vision and ideas that I have that aren't done yet. I want to make some things so it's really sustainable and can evolve for the future for the next generation.
That's a pretty energizing thing to have a passion and a vision for getting things done.
Sure.
So I hope it works out that way for you.
All right, thank you.
Sounds cool. Thanks for being a guest.
Thanks.